All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Leadership Blend Live podcast with your amazing host, Ricardo D. Rice. Now, if you are watching the live, you're looking at a room full of gentlemen, and I'm sure you're going, what is going on? Well, this is panel number 3 in our 5-part series on the black man, and today we're looking at mentality. How does black men think? You know, what are the effects? All that good stuff. Everything. We're peeling back the layers to get to the vulnerability of black men. So I had to call him the best and the brightest. 2 of these faces you've already seen, particularly Leo. You guys know him. He's been on the podcast before. If you watched the television show, you've seen Byron because he was a guest this season. Was it this season?
This season, yeah.
This season.
Yes.
And Aaron's new. Dr. Kimball, I have to call him his official capacity. Dr. Kimball is new. So I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves, starting from my right, and then we'll go around this way. So starting with you, Byron.
Sure. Well, glad to be on with you, my brother. So glad to be on. My name is Byron Jamal. I'm a love coach, former pastor turned love coach and love guru. I help ordinary people find extraordinary love.
And you have how many books? 15?
6. Only 6.
I was speaking into existence. He has about 15 books. You're the only person I know can sit down and write a whole book, I swear, in like 2 months. I can't even get my second one off the ground. You've written like 15 around me, but I digress.
Good afternoon. My name's Leo Bryant, licensed professional counselor in private practice here in Atlanta, Georgia, as well as a new author to the game.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, my name is Dr. Aaron J. Kimball. I am a clinical intern as well as a special projects leader for DeKalb County government. I need to be working on a book because these impressive men have their books out and ready to go.
How do you think I feel? It's my show, and both of them got books. Like, well, hold your book up and talk about it real quick.
Okay.
Talk about it real quick.
So, this is my 6th book on dating men. So I wanted to create an inclusive guide for men and women who wanted to date men. As we're going to talk about today, I believe that gay men and straight men have a lot of the same characteristics. So having the first inclusive book I've ever seen out, that really helps men and women have these conversations together about dating men.
So when you say dating men, are we talking about dating black men or just dating men in general?
Men in general, because again, even black men do have some nuances, but the truth is that we have a lot of similarities, much more than we like to give credit to.
All right. Dr. Bryant.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Your book. Hold your book up and talk about it.
Well, this is one of a 7-part series. I've got 11 books total that I'm authoring. So 2 more in publishing. This one specifically is The Lake Trafford Boys. It's actually a book that I've been using in my private practice since 2013. I just never got the manuscript published. It's a compilation of stories, and there's a lot of psychological terms that I'm kind of introducing to readers, young readers, elementary school age, as well as parents. And it's more of a 90s nostalgic type feel to it, going back to the rural South where I was born and raised. So it's one of many books, and hopefully you guys can check it out and let me know what you think.
Awesome.
Appreciate the spotlight.
Love that,
It's
man.
beautiful.
I was about to say, Aaron, hold your book up. I forgot. We on the same page, so we don't
It's
really
coming.
have.
No, it's
we don't
coming.
really have
It's
like
coming.
books.
This
So
is motivation right here. Look at
we're
it.
gonna let the thing. All right, so let's jump into it. Let's start with undertones. You guys particularly are working with clients, you as well. So let's start with undertones. What are some of the undertones you are hearing a lot when you talk to, or common themes that you're hearing a lot with the clients that you're talking to, particularly black men? And Brian, you start.
So one of the things that deal with the most is really not being able to express themselves and not knowing how to give words to what they feel.
Yes.
As young boys, we're taught to just kind of grin and bear it. And we grunt and moan more than actually give full thoughts. And so being able to help them find language to express what they're going through, giving them a safe space also where there's no judgment is huge. Because for many of them, once they start opening up to somebody, here's a few things that happen. 1, they get shut down. 2, they're told they're not masculine enough for sharing their emotions. They're not strong enough. 3, it's used against them in some way, shape, or form. And so in arguments or even by friends or family. So those 3 things, inside of that one thing, that's the major thing.
Leo.
Yeah, I agree with Byron 1,000,000,000,000,000,000%. And that's one of the biggest things I've noticed. I've seen a spike since March of last year in my practice practice specifically with black men, more so in the 20s, college age.
Yes.
And ironically, well, not ironically, unfortunately, most of them do have father figures in the household. And when I kind of bring in the father for the conversation, they don't know how to express themselves. And so, you know, I always start with just start telling stories. You know, just talk about what's relevant and relative to you. And again, to Byron's credit, it's all about learning how to communicate. And you'd be surprised, and not just black men.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
White men too.
Yes,
I've
indeed.
got a diverse caseload, and nobody knows how to talk. And I'm like, this is sad.
It
you know?
is.
But it's a truth.
Aaron?
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to piggyback on what both of these gentlemen said. When we are talking about men communicating, we're talking about them, being seen. A lot of my clients, I mean, even, you know, yesterday I had clients that were trying to speak about, and notice I said trying to speak about being heard within their respective families and more specifically within their relationship. And then secondly, the way in which they show up in my therapy seat is typically wanting to be good enough. And for me, that is somewhat of a trigger. And so I'm empowering, I'm encouraging, and I'm trying to get them, as Leo and Byron talked about, getting them to tell their narrative, getting them to tell their story and what their story is about and how it's important that story is heard.
So I'm going to go to you, Leo, because I know we talk a lot about young boys and that process. Where does this start? How does this typically start, that this lack of communication, this lack of being able to verbalize how you feel or articulate what you need?
Yeah. And in similar conversations we've had, or previous conversations we've had, it starts in the cradle. It's as early as stop crying. You a little boy.
Yes.
You know, put that down.
Yes, sir.
Be tough. I mean, I'm talking about 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, right? I've noticed even with working with some of my clients who are autistic, who are children, age 3, 4, and 5, right? The nonverbal. If I'm working with a little girl, there's so much more coddling, so much more affection and touch, and you know. And with the little boys, it's almost like this short fuse. Like, come on, stop playing. You want to pop them, but with a little girl, you don't want to pop them.
You're right.
So even before the kids with noted disabilities and handicaps are progressing, they're not treated as androgynous. And I always use this word a lot, you know, up until age 8, 9, when they're, you know, hitting adolescence and puberty. Each human being, right, each person should be allowed to experience the full gambit of emotions and verbal and nonverbal, you know, communication. But boys work at a deficit, and then it just gets worse, you know, as they progress. I mean, that's been my professional experience,
Absolutely.
clinically speaking.
Do you find that a lot when you're talking to your clients about childhood? Does that come up a lot and not having those spaces? And
So the first session that I do with my clients is always about their childhood because it's always related. There is never not one client I've ever had, including myself, when I have gone and gotten my own help. I literally know that it's from childhood. Look, we are creatures of habit. And so whatever is ingrained in us, we're going to do very naturally. So if we were taught something as children, then we're going to do that naturally, even if it's subconscious. We do a lot of things that we don't even know why we do them. Like when we really do an assessment a lot of times on why do I do this, it's only because my mama did it or my daddy did it or I saw it done, and we have no other reason. It may not even serve us. It may actually be counterproductive in our lives. We just happen to do it just because they did it. And so some people's faith is built like that. Some people's habits, their sexual orientation or preferences, I should say, are built like that. The way they handle relationships is built like that. And how, to my brother Leo's point here about affection, when men are taught not to be affirming to one another, see, boys learn very early on. I like this boy over here, and they can be completely heterosexual. I like this boy over here. I want to get close to him. I want to share with him. I want to share my world, my life with this young guy. I want to be vulnerable with this other young boy. But I know that if I do, because I've seen over there with the older kids, if I do this, they're going to label me a certain way. And that may not be who I am, or it may be who I am, but that's not what I want to be labeled as right now. And so they damper that part of themselves. And if you live in a way where you are constantly second guessing what you naturally feel, if you are living in a way where you grow up knowing, learning, and being comfortable with not being your true and authentic self, you become that person as an adult, and you get really good at it. You get so good at being an actor, at wearing a mask, that you literally don't realize you're wearing it anymore. It's like, as a bald man, and I wear hats a lot, so I'll be in places and they'll be like, take your hat off, and I literally forget I have a hat on. Like, I'll walk in church and I'll forget I have a hat on, and they'll say, take your hat off. And I'll be like, oh man, I didn't even realize this bald head is like hair. So I forget I have it sometimes.
I did too.
Like, really? Seriously, right?
I got too.
I'm with you on that.
Like, really? So you understand, my brother. You get my pain. So my point is very simple, that if this is something you have grown accustomed to, if it's become a habit, if it's become a natural part of you to hide, to wear the mask, then you literally struggle and don't realize that you're struggling with not being an authentic person. You think you're giving your true self, you're giving a role. The example I use to kind of bring this to my clients is, if you're an actor that studied a part for a long, long, long time, and you're deep in that role, you may not realize that you're not that person. Wow. And some people don't realize that the person they're living, that they've built the whole world around, is not who they are.
Wow.
So I'm gonna come to you, because you're the, I want to call you the baby, but you're kind of the baby in essence.
I'll take that.
So how do you
baby face?
Because I mean, since you're in essence newer-ish, how do you create those spaces? What kind of spaces do you create for your clients to make them comfortable enough to even want to, start this process?
It's honestly about being yourself, and to your point, I mean, just being authentic and setting that expectation for the client once they come into the therapy room. I said this yesterday, and you and I have a conversation about this quite often. In terms of getting needs met, our clients and all of us as human beings, we want our needs to be met. And those needs are vital to how we perform, and I use this term loosely, how we perform with other people. And so if we are getting our needs met from our primary caregiver, it starts in, typically, as Byron stated, it starts at the home, in the cradle. Once we're getting those needs met, we understand that we can go out and we can say to other people who are in relationship with us, hey, this is what I need. This is what I would like for you to give to me. And, at that point, it becomes a safe space. So I try to do that initially from the beginning, so that way we can have that type of symbiotic relationship,
That's good.
All right,
Absolutely.
so let me ask this. Who am I going to ask this question to? Let me come to you.
Oh,
so
Lord.
y'all make it so easy. I just get to go
I'm
around
so
the room.
nervous.
It's like a buffet. It's like a buffet. I can just kind of go where I want to go. All right, so when we speak about, and I'll speak specifically about gay black men, when we talk about building interpersonal relationships, what do you find? Like, what is their biggest struggle? Outside of being able to articulate what you need from people in general,
Yes.
how do you build a circle that can help create a safe space for an individual?
Well, let's first deal with the fact that gay men want to have sex with each other. Okay, let's start there. All right. Now, that's the reality, is that we're sexual beings. The problem with it is that we have not had any real talks or training around sex and sexuality, ones that are substantial enough to develop healthy relationships and still have sex. Like, to actually have friendships that don't evolve into sex or don't have to start with
sex.
sex.
All right, so let me ask you this.
Yes.
Is that any different than a hetero?
No, I don't think we're having healthy conversations in general. But since the question is centered around black gay men, understand that two women who are heterosexual are not having that issue, but two black gay men are. They are typically coming from a black experience, a black church, a black community, even if they didn't go to the black church, a black community that repressed all sexuality, like not even heterosexual. It was, and this is the sad thing, is like black gay men get it so much worse because the conversations can't be had on any level. On any level. The heterosexual ones don't apply, and so you kind of tune that out. And then the gay ones are from people who are scarred, bitter, broken, single, lonely, even the healthiest people that you want to go to, they have their own scars and things that they'll leave you with. So that's why I'm very intentional when I coach somebody about love who is a Black gay man, very intentional about making them feel as secure as possible. And I have had clients try to hit on me because they don't know any better. And I literally have to make them aware that I understand why you just did this, but understand that I understand that you don't have to. And helping them find healthier paths and avenues to create healthy conversations, healthy relationships with friends. Like, for instance, I have groups of friends that come to me. They want group coaching because they've literally all had sex together. And it may have been one time, and they just say, okay, now we're friends. But my question is, why do you have to do that? It's not like dogs smelling each other's butt. Like, you don't have to do that in order to get close to one another. But because of the conversations about sex and sexuality that we don't have, it leads to that. So in this question about the spaces that men are in and how can they create healthy spaces, if we don't address sex and sexuality as a whole and why the conversations aren't happening, then that question is very difficult to have in a real way.
Can I chime in on that one? I kind of want to challenge what Byron is saying. Mm-hmm. For the past 10 years, 12 years now, I've worked with clients who were transgender, transsexual, in the process of it. Presently, I've got quite a few young brothers who, they just came out, if I can use that term in parentheses. And there's one thing, one common denominator, right? We talked about undertones earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would challenge that it's less about the physical and more about just the whole spiritual human experience. Wow. Because from a psychological standpoint, when I'm doing these assessments, for example, everybody thinks they have some kind of personality disorder or mood disorder. I'm like, no, you don't. Right. You have a lack of being a human being experience, disorder. And so what I like to do is I speak directly to the soul, right? Ooh. And I bypass all the physical stuff, all the titles, all the politics and bureaucracies and all that kind of jazz. Mm-hmm. And when I pull the layers all the way back, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm totally vulnerable, and they're totally vulnerable, right? Heterosexual, homosexual, all the above. What I've learned, right? And I say learn because I'm not an expert on it at all. Man. What I've learned is when people are allowed to really be their authentic self. Yes. And they're allowed to really share how their soul has been treated and where their soul wants to find peace. Yes. That's when everything else kind of it falls in place. Everything else being physical, mental, emotional. And it's a spiritual piece. Yes. Yeah. We talk about the church. Me and my fiance and all, we were watching the Aretha Franklin thing on
Genius.
Yeah. And, it's been a lot of films. And it's not about what's being said in these films, even Chadwick Boseman's films, right? Mm-hmm. It's the spirit that's being the energy that's being emitted. And that's what I think has been and presently is the major challenge, not just for Black men, heterosexual or homosexual, but just humans in general, but more specifically us. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know if that resonates, but when you was talking, I kind of was like, I think it's even deeper than
I agree.
Yeah. And you know what? I would challenge you guys to do this, and I've actually asked this question to my clients and to my friends. Mm-hmm. What is healing? What does that look like for you? And I was so surprised at the reactions to that particular question because I would say 70 to 75% of my clients, gay, straight, white, Black, they can't articulate what healing is, or even what it would look like for them in the future.
Yes. Well, to that point, I think that's really healthy to say. And to Leo's point here, the truth is we need the merger of physical and the spiritual because healing for a lot of men ends up being doing destructive things that affect the body. Yeah. They do destructive things that affect the body because they don't have a sense of identity. Which is not found because they haven't really tapped into the spiritual. What I found is that a lot of men, when they can't come to grips with this vessel, it's hard to deal with what's in the vessel, right? So I love to have those talks because I'm a love guru. So we talk about spirit, we talk about faith, we talk about all of that. But until I can help people realize that you, for who you are, you're enough, that you should love who you are. See, the guys that come to me, they have issues with, and women that come to me have issues with their body. Like I have one young lady right now, she's a lesbian. She's dealing with her body weight and body image, and that's her whole thing. The women that love her, that want her, they think they only want her for, you know, her money or her position. And I'm trying to help this young lady. I'm like, look, you got to love who you are. So in that first two sessions, we're diving into that. She's finally breaking through. Now she's engaging. She's like, Byron, now, you know, I saw you doing yoga the other day on your live. I would love to, you know, know more about that and get my body right. And so finding the merger. Yeah. But why would you care about what's within you? If you don't love what you look like, how you feel about yourself, how you were born, the way you were born. So there has to be a merger between the two. But I feel like, and I use this example quite often. I think I shared this with you before. When I was a kid, we were given clay. We were instructed to create something for our parents. So most of the kids did easy stuff like vases and cups and stuff, you know, mugs. I thought I was creative. You know, I've always been that kid. I was a little different. So I decided I want to create a bear in a chair watching TV. Yeah, so, yes. And this was a 2-day assignment, but I had 30 minutes to create this thing, and I have never worked with clay before. I did a little Play-Doh action when at home, but that's about it. It wasn't really that good then. I don't know what I was thinking, but I went ahead, and this was my idea. It was supposed to reflect my dad, a Jamaican man, coming home working multiple jobs, tired, watching TV, falling asleep. That's what it was supposed to represent. Well, long story short, I ended up creating more like a bear in a beanbag. Right, because the chair had no legs.
That's still good.
I didn't have
still kind of good.
It just had ears, and I don't know what the face was giving. Anyway, so I was disappointed, and the teacher was like, "Don't worry, it may not look the way you want, but we're gonna put it in the oven tomorrow. We're gonna paint it, and it's gonna come out real good. Don't worry." So I was thinking of the colors I wanted to make. I wanted to make it exceptional. So I wasn't just gonna do a red or a blue. I was like gonna give it. I was gonna give this color nobody's ever seen before. And that's exactly what I did. Don't ever mix 5 colors together and think you're going to get anything good. Okay, I'm just telling you. So when I took this thing home to my parents, and I'm crying at this point. I'm literally walking in the house saying, I'm so sorry. This ain't what I wanted. I wanted to make you a bear in a chair watching TV, and I got this thing. I don't even know what it is. My mom she laughed at first, but then she saw it was serious. And she started crying. And then they took it, gave me a hug, and put it on the mantle where we have our trophies and awards. And I didn't know at the time what it meant, but I later realized what it was saying was that it didn't matter so much how that thing looked. It mattered who made it. Yes. And they could accept what it looked like because of who made it. And so you got to understand that I help my clients understand you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And when you understand who made you, and they're good, that you are made with love, in love, by love, through love, to be loved, to love, then when you realize that, then you can start accepting that nature in you. You can start walking in that nature, and you can start accepting the vessel that you are. And that little lesson taught me a whole lot about why the work I do is so vital, because people can't see who made them because they're looking too much at the vessel.
Wow. If you don't mind, Lee, I want to challenge your assertion. But before I do challenge it,
yes,
I want to say that was a beautiful story.
Thank you.
In regard to how your parents esteemed you. And
I want to make a bear in a chair now.
I know, right? Let's all get some clay. Let's all get some clay.
Bear in a chair.
That's a great idea.
Bear and Steve Bears.
You know what I'm wondering? For people who have been ostracized and by marginalized groups such as gay men, such as black men, when you may hear the church saying, you're not accepted.
Yes.
When you may hear your parents saying you're not accepted. When you may hear, brothers and sisters and family and, friends saying you're not accepted. How do you begin to esteem yourself? Like, where do you turn?
That is the primary question. And I'm sure Leo can answer this as well. I have to help people get to this part. Like in this book, I help people realize there is something in you that is fundamentally just okay. There is nothing you need to change. There's nothing you need to work on in the sense of being something better. All you need to do is understand what is within you. A lot of the language that we use often is about change, is about becoming something different, is about altering yourself, evolving, when it is more like discovering. Because if there's greatness in you, I don't need to create greatness. I need to discover greatness in me. And so it's becoming more of the authentic version of who I am. So my question is, who do you really want to be? So that is really what it is. Getting them to a place where they can answer the question, how do I want to live? How do I want my life to look? What does it look like for me to be the way that I feel like I should be? And when that is answered, now we can start doing the work.
Well, I want to challenge that a little bit. I agree. I'm in agreement, and I love that question.
Yes, that's a great question.
Dr. Kimball. I think, and you mentioned, Byron, mergers, right? We need to merge.
Yes.
I think it precedes the merger, though. You have to go back to the vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, right, and that's why I started with this particular book, 5th grade elementary school. What vehicles are available for us to kind of jump in and evolve and experience and experiment? For myself, it was primarily sports, right?
Yeah.
And football.
Yeah.
Now,
sir.
it just so happens I like the game.
So happens, right?
And everybody don't like getting out there in the hot sun and hitting and running, so on and so forth. I like, because I got an overabundance of energy, right? And I'm like, I'm a knucklehead. But what am I saying? What I'm saying is, imagine if you came into this particular world and you had math STEM programs, you had theater, you had art, you had science, you had reading, you had all these vehicles at your disposal, and you can kind of jump in and jump out and kind of, see what you like and what you don't like as you progress into adolescence and puberty. Now, when you do hit that cognitive development area where your world expands, right? You can articulate, hey, I'm in middle school. I don't want to do PE.
Yeah.
It's a reason why I want culinary. I like to cook.
Yes.
And you can say it with masculinity or femininity. You can say it with confidence. Why? Because you've been allowed to kind of explore and be opened up to these various, vessels. So now when you talk about mergers, when you get into, high school and now you're transitioning, you can have authentic, intelligent, conversations because you have experienced other things and different walks of life.
Yeah.
One of the biggest blessings I had was through sports and through clubs and so on and so forth. I learned and met a lot of different people. And because I'm from South Florida, right, everybody from another country, I had the opportunity to kind of experience other cultures. You feel me? Yeah. So when it came down to, I'm going to pigeonhole you and put you in a box and call you a black man, I'm like, who? You can call who or what? No, partner, we about to battle in whatever form you want to. Yeah. In addition, it also allowed me to become an advocate for people who I knew nothing about. Yes. I'm not homosexual, but I understand what it means to be ostracized.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm a black man.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then, through sports, you understand how to conquer Goliath. That's what it's all about, right? Battling yourself and then battling your opponent. So if I'm like, well, you know what? Hey, y'all not about to jump on my brother Byron. I don't care how you feel about what you feel. Let's get into a playing field where we can explore these emotions. Yeah. It doesn't have to come to fisticuffs.
Yes.
It don't have to fight, right?
Yeah.
But when all you're given is the vehicle of anger and physical violence, well, what do you expect people to do? Yeah. Yeah. You hear what I'm saying?
I agree.
So let me ask this, because let me redirect this, and I'm gonna start with you this time, because you said the last time when we were on the show that we kind of got in the church, and you was like, "Oh yeah, I got an opinion on the church." Start there. What is your opinion on church as it pertains to black men?
My opinion about church.
Brian, I know you got
it. It has changed drastically from when I was a younger man to now, and I am not in favor of traditional religion, albeit Pentecostal, Apostolic, Cogent, you name it. I've been through them all, Baptist, and I'm not saying that the institutions are flawed. What I'm simply saying is, if the individuals who are pushing these gospels are not willing to go into the areas, the places, and really practice what they're preaching, then I can't sit and allow you to pour into me, because mentorship is when I put me and you, right? And if you're preaching from a word, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can read, I can interpret. Allow me to challenge your notion, because my experience is different than your experience. And if the end result is to win souls into the kingdom of God, if that's the ultimate mission, well, there's more than one way to skin the cat. Don't put my way down.
Yes.
And I say all the time, I'm not an in the pew Christian. Right?
Yep.
I'm like one of those archangels. I enjoy battling the demons and spawns in the streets. That's what I do.
An archangel?
I don't know.
That's
it was kind of
Hey,
the thoughts and opinions that are
Go for
expressed
it.
on today's
Go
show
for
are
it.
not necessarily the opinions of the Leadership Blend Media
But
Company.
my
Just put a
point,
disclaimer out there.
my point is, and I'll wrap it up in 2 seconds. I'll wrap in 2 seconds. Fellas, my thing is, I've seen just as much, if not, damage, if not more, by Christian men specifically in churches than I have with the dudes on the corner of the streets, slanging dope and gangs, and you know what I'm saying? And even playing ball. I played Big Ten football, and there was guys who, okay, we knew you wasn't all the way 100 our way, but you were part of my team, so I'm going to protect you. But the moment you step out of line in the church, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. But this is supposed to be the church. So present day, I cannot say that I am a proponent of formalized religion as it presently stands, if you're not putting in the work. I know the work that I do every day, all day, because I carry my clients in my heart every day.
Yes.
They with me right now. So if you are not at least operating on my level, I don't know how much inspiration you're actually receiving.
You're going last. Aaron?
You know,
I think I'm going to give you a time limit. I feel like I need to give you a time limit. Pastor.
Brevity is going to be my friend on this, because I would have a lot. So I'm going to be very brief.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. You know, I often hear pastors and preachers, ministers, bishops, and archangels talk.
That's clearly what we...
I mean, that's official.
I don't
right
even know
there.
how you
That's
got to
official.
put your name
Archangel
in
Leo.
the same sentence.
It's official.
Doing the most today.
Angels
God
we
complex.
have
There's only
heard
one
on
demigod
high.
here. That is me. Let's be very clear.
You know, I hear them often say the church is supposed to be, what do they say? It's
hospital.
It's a hospital for the sick. It's, you know, a courtroom for the
Underrepresented.
Yeah, all of that. You know, yet we don't accept, and I say we because I'm a part of that as well, we don't accept those who don't look like us, who don't act like us, who don't pray like us, who don't praise like us. And so in the end, I'm just wondering, when you made a great point, what is salvation? What does it look like for all of us at this point? Like, what is our goal in terms of going to the church? What is the church's goal in terms of having us? Is it money? Is it membership? Is it money? Is it being on TV? What is it? Because I'm confused.
All right, let me look at my clock and see. All right.
Brevity, remember.
You got 3 minutes.
Easy.
You got 3 minutes.
Easy. I just say this about the church, where it is now. So, yes, it's supposed to be a hospital, but it's the only hospital in the world where you have to come in healed. And that is the problem with the church today, is if you come in actually sick, we got problems. It is one of those situations where I call it, and this is something I'm actually about to do a little series on, the Donnie McClurkin complex, to where we have this thought that as long as you keep saying I'm healed, if you get a girlfriend or if you get a wife, that you suddenly are...
Wait. Explain the Donnie McClurkin. For people that don't know, what is the Donnie McClurkin that recently happened?
So it's basically in general and in full, because it's full story, not just the smaller part of what's happened recently. But his full story really just simply that he's a man who's grown up in the church, has been protected by the church, his sexual story of coming out, being healed, but still saying he's not healed. The confusion behind it all, trying to get with another gospel artist, that not really being a thing, still dating men and women the whole time while he's saying he's healed, but being protected by pastors and the gospel community, the entire time, everybody knowing what he's doing, him dating boys and all these kind of things, and still just kind of living his life, but we still act like he's not. It's that. It's that world that we're dealing with. It's the hypocrisy of gay pastors, gay singers, everybody in the church community who is gay, lesbian, and gay, because it's on both sides. A lot of lesbian gospel singers out there too, that I have worked with specifically, and they know, and everybody know. Anyway, so it's that community and that world that's doing it, and it's very blatant and it's very in your face. You don't even have to look that hard for it. You don't even have to Google hard for it. It's there. All the scandals, all the pastors are sleeping with boys and girls. We know, we hide. And that's my problem with the church, is that this culture of hiding, this culture of masking, this culture of not being clear. The whole church is supposed to work. The only way it can work is if it's honest. The only way it can work is if it's truth-led. The only way it can work if it's vulnerable. It has to be the shedding of blood. It has to be, I am willing to slice myself so you can see what's really under this skin, so you can know what the truth is. If it's not that, if it's let me put on gloves, the little white gloves the little ushers wear, if it's let me put on a bigger robe to cover up more of who I am, if it's all of the hats and the pomp and the circumstance, if it's more of that to cover more, to hide more, then we're not doing church. We're actually doing the opposite of what the church was supposed to do, and it's ineffective, to Leo's point. It's just ineffective. It's not working. It is more about bringing in followers than it is converting people. What we're doing is recycling more people than we're converting. We're taking people from one church, come over to my church. We're saying the only conversion we're doing is children. And that's the problem. You got a whole generation of people who aren't even churched, who would never really want to go to a church because look at how it is.
Wow.
Can I? Sorry.
After you.
Let me. I want to jump in and share something. It's experience, because I want to put more context, practical context and evidence supporting what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I don't like when people be running their mouth.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can I have some proof?
Right.
So about 4 years ago, I took a group of individuals who were schizophrenic, right? And they all were of the lowest socioeconomic class. And I went to one of the individuals who was he was working with me as a caseworker, right? And I said, hey, Deacon, you have access to a church, a Baptist church, right here in Mechanicsville. Why not? Let's have group there, and let's open the doors, and people can come in and so on and so forth, right? And I was raised old school, missionary tent services in the street, so this is just my comfort zone. Now here's the thing. It went beautifully for about 2 months, but what happened was I'm not familiar with all the politics around Baptist churches, and I don't want to throw them under the bus, but this is a true story. When they got wind of how many people were coming in on the weekdays, sitting in my groups and going through, our progression, I got called in, and they wanted to know, well, can we receive some compensation? And I was like, well, you mean like rent? It was like, no, like compensation. I was like, well, I tell you what, I cut you a check for $500 a month. That's about the size I'll pay for office out here, in my private practice. And, y'all let me use the whole church, right? And now, mind you, this is a church that's dead, meaning nobody comes on Sundays. There's nobody there. It's just, these old, parishioners who. So anyway, I'm bringing revenue and life into their church, right? I'm mandating that if you come to the group, you have to come to the church on Sunday, right? And these people are coming. It got to a point where they wanted so much of a percentage. And I'm like, well, time out. These individuals who are on disabilities, and I'm doing a medical service, and I'm just using your venue, right? And this is a block full of drugs and activities and, gangs and violence, and you're seeing the people come out on the porch, right? And come in and inquire what's going on over here. And I got my caseworkers out there, and they're doing their quote-unquote missionary work or whatever you want to call it. And I just watched how this beautiful potential reinvestment, vitalization program, mental health, getting into the community. I watched how it was flourishing, and here come quote unquote Satan, want to creep in the form of apostles, and I don't know. Again, I'm not gonna say the names because I don't know the chain of command. And we had to ultimately shut the doors because they wanted too much. Now that's from a capitalistic standpoint. And when I invited these individuals. And I remember it was about 5 or 6 of them, you know, older individuals, right? And they just was like, you know, we don't want you in here talking about this and that. I'm like, well, it's mental health, and we had a Christian component. I allowed them to, you know, music and you know, the whole thing. My point is, the problem with the church is the people in the church.
Wow.
It's not the people in the streets. To your point, Byron, I've never had a client come in healed.
Yeah.
I've never turned away a client because they were broken.
What's the point?
Right. What are we doing?
So what's the real church and what's the facade?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, so you got to.
I do. Just real quickly on
Yes.
both of your points. The Bible says, and yes, I'm quoting scripture. The Bible.
It better be right.
It's right. The Bible says.
Research team.
Google.
What you do to the least of mine,
Okay, he's on.
you will also do unto me. And so I'm. This is what I'm curious about. Where do we begin to separate who we are versus who another person is, and what their struggles are versus what our struggles are? Because last time I checked, most of us have struggles.
Yes.
We have struggles. And then another point that I really quickly want to make is I hear identity underneath everything that we're discussing. The identity of the Black church and where it's going, where it has been, and you know now where it's going. I also hear the identity of not only its members, but the identity of Black men who predominantly make up the Black church.
And his leadership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Predominantly.
All right, y'all done had a field day. All right, so we don't want to have just baseless discussions. So let's get into solutions.
Yes.
Leo, what do Black men need just to start out? Because I really want to get into the relationship between Black women and Black men. Because we had that conversation and you just blew everything out of the water. But unfortunately, we don't have time. So solutions, like what can an individual do? What can Black men do to create safe spaces or be better at building interpersonal relationships, things of that magnitude?
The first thing is what Mahatma Gandhi always says, right? Come on, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes, sir.
The second thing is step out with courage. Be authentically who you are.
Yeah.
And be visible. That's the reason why I do what I do, and I don't hide behind some cloak. No, I am who I am, and you can meet me wherever you want to meet me, and we can have a discussion on whatever level you want to. And it's we have a lack of heroes. We have a lack of, you know, everybody. It's so crazy because I thought 1965 happened in 1965, but we always divert into the civil rights movement for inspiration. What about 2021?
Yes, sir.
Who's here? This is our time.
Yes.
Right? So I'm of age. I'm the same age, if not older than what Martin Luther King was and Malcolm X, so on and so forth. So what am I doing to contribute? W. Du Bois says what? The talented 10%. So if we're in that talented 10%, being the talented 10%, not all the time, but, well, not sometimes, but all the time. So to answer your question, and so I'll be quiet, is we have to be visible. And we have to be courageous. You know, you got to pick up that sword and that shield and be ready to do some battle.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That is.
I got to call your name? I mean, I'm looking at you. I got to call your name?
What if I suddenly went blind?
Okay, well, then I say something, but you're not. So
I would simply say that right now we need, to Leo's point, we need people that are willing to create instead of just blindly follow. We need people that will step up and see a problem and be willing to invest the energy that's required to make the change. Not being silent when they see things. As someone who was molested by a member of my own family, I remember hearing one of my clients talk about their family hiding their own situation within the family, and it 50 years later still affecting them. And I remember that silence killing my spirit when I was a kid. And so now I've realized that it's worth the effort to speak. Whatever you see that is not right, if you see something in a church that's not right, speak. If you see something in a community that's not right, speak. The silence will kill us. It will corrode us. It will hinder us. And we will end up being the type of people that stay stuck. And as you said, stay stuck on things that are 50, 60 years our senior, when we should be leading the way, not speaking about things that have already been done.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely echo those sentiments, and I'll say this: we have to learn how to love each other, how to legitimately and really love each other. I read something the other day that was so profound and so powerful. As black men, sometimes we will walk in the grocery store, we walk on the sidewalk, and we will not say, "What's up?"
Yes.
to each other.
Yes.
How do we get to that point? So we have to recognize, and for these gentlemen, when we came in, I dapped him up, gave him a hug. That's brotherly love right here. These are men who I've, within the last hour, grown to respect. We have to continue to do that in our communities and teach each other how to love.
I don't remember you speaking to me when you came in the studio, but I didn't want to throw you under the bus, but I just feel like it needed to be said. I just feel like it needed to be said.
He said the men in the room.
I didn't want to throw you under the bus, but I feel like it needed to be said. It is what it is. All right. So how did they get in touch with you? And tell the name of your practice and all that stuff.
Okay, so the name of my practice is Bryant Counseling Services, and www.bryantcounselingservicesllc.com. Also, I'm on all social media, Facebook, on the ones I know about, Facebook, Instagram, all the other stuff, LinkedIn. So just look me
Where's
up.
it located?
Also, East Point, Georgia is where my primary office is. However, I'm virtual. So where there's a will, there's a way.
And your social media is not under your name. So you need to say that, because I was looking all over the world.
So I have two personas, right? I have this character I made of Doc B,
And
right?
Archangel.
Which is
Okay.
that's my
Archangel Leo.
You're right. That's I do ops course racing. I do professional ops course racing.
Nice.
So and I do that with a lot of my military affiliations. And so they know me as Doc B, and all my clients know me as Mr. Leo. Just don't call me broke and unemployed, and we ain't got a problem.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
I'm here for that.
You just won't act right today. I'm done with it. FYI, the people that you see in this corner, this is all Byron's people, so I just want to let that know.
Okay.
Except the lovely, raise your hand, Miss Tops, raise your hand. This is PR to the stars. Like this is the love of my life. I love her so much.
Isn't she
I just want to
amazing?
shout her out because she like to be behind the scenes. Although your birthday, you was wilding out. I just want to throw that out there too. But definitely, I love Mrs. Leslie Tops. But that's Byron's team. I just want to make sure everybody knew
We
that. That's not
did
me.
wild out just a bit on her birthday.
Yeah, a little bit.
We
Which
did
I owe
just
you.
a little bit.
We need a wild out because I owe you that one. All right. How do we get in touch with you?
I'm easy to find. Love should be. I am found easily at ByronJamal.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and I'm a little funny sometime on TikTok at Byron Jamal.
I can't get TikTok. People trying to make me, but I would act a
You can
complete
TikTok.
fool. I would
You
act a
can
complete
TikTok.
fool. People don't know what I do behind closed doors. Kimball.
So currently, I'm at a Place for Me counseling. Shout out to probably one of the world's best supervisors, Elise Carruth, and all the work that she's doing for blackness and for women. So I'm at a Place for Me counseling. You can, of course, read about my bio. I am also on all of the major
Come on, read my bio.
social media platforms, I think with the exception of Instagram.
You're not active on any of them. Let's be very clear. You're not really active on any of them, but
He's on them.
Yeah, you're on them, but
I'm
you're not really
on 'em.
active on any of them. Let's be kind of clear about that.
If you guys hit me up, then I'll be more active. How about that?
There you go.
I'm actually proud of myself. I actually finished early today, so I got a couple of more minutes. So since I got a couple more minutes,
Go
final
for it.
thoughts, like anything you want to leave with people. Because I know I asked y'all to kind of summarize with solution, but anything you want to leave that's on your heart or on your mind.
I just want to remind people, if nothing else, that you are worthy of the love you seek. So keep seeking higher versions of love.
Throw something in. You be talking a lot. Throw something in that people like a lot that you got a good feedback in. What's
Oh,
something you
about the
talked
book?
about? Just in general, because you be all now. Out of everybody on this panel, maybe except me, Byron is the most active. Like he every day is some new topic. How to avoid 10 things that I was gonna say niggas do, but that dudes do. Like, what is one of the ones that's been really popular that people really responded to?
More recently, I've been getting a lot of buzz around how to handle dating mistakes. And so one of the things that I encourage people, one of the things I did recently, one of the top 5 things, I'll give you a couple of them. One of them was moving too fast. I say when you move too fast, you miss too much. Ultimately, if you were racing down a road, you would miss a lot on the left and the right, right? Because you were racing down the road. And so the same thing with a relationship. If it's lasting a lifetime, then we don't have to rush. And so I slow people down, especially couples that come to me, and I say, hey, let's slow it down a bit and let's have real conversations and ask the right questions, which is the second thing, asking better questions. People don't ask the right questions in relationships and dating. We end up asking like, "What's your favorite food and your favorite color?" And these are things
to know. Like,
yeah, that's
sit
cute.
down with your kids 20 years.
We'll figure that over dinner while we're eating. But the reality is that the real questions need to be asked is, so how did you grow up? What was your childhood like? Yeah.
Out the gate.
What was your childhood like? Yes.
That is not something you ask somebody over a sandwich or
Why
a
not?
panini. Like,
if it was great, then that's a great conversation. If it was painful, now we dive into some things. I can realize there are some triggers and some things that I need to keep an eye out for. That's a great question. And in fact, it's a full question that can lead you on an entire date. That you can ask follow-ups. So tell me, middle school, did you have a lot of friends? Were you that type of, I mean, it's not invasive. It is somebody's story, and they should be willing and able to tell their story, right?
that's a strong question.
That's not.
I mean, I agree, but
if you can't share that, it gives a great sign that you have a lot of trauma and hiding and masking, and so that's a sign all by itself. So you might it's a struggle for you.
Oh, we put it on me? I mean, no. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying,
okay.
You know the dating scene in Atlanta, so to ask, they feel it basically ask the simplest question.
Yeah.
Let alone, so tell me about your childhood.
That's why you have to elevate your questions.
You must know Leo. You're asking Leo questions. What's really going on?
Right. You must know Leo questions.
Like out the gate, like.
Yes. Tell me about your childhood.
I can see people walking out of the restaurant.
You
right
grow
now.
both your parents. Were both parents in the home. What was that situation like?
Oh my God, you sound like a therapist.
No, you don't. You sound like
you're gonna sound like a therapist.
This is what you sound like. You sound like someone who's actively and fully interested in getting to know who you are. That's what you sound like, and you sound different than the other people who they've been talking to.
I want you to do a case study on this, and I will help you because I got to see how this plays out.
Sure.
Especially here, like we gonna do a case study now. We
Are you volunteering
Easy.
to be participant number one?
I can be ground zero. Yes, I can be ground
I like
zero.
it.
I have
Yes,
no problem.
that's
with
a
that.
whole show in
You
itself.
can both go to hell, but, and it's my show, so I can say that.
Dating Ricardo.
That's a series. That's a series. All right, I'm done with y'all. All right, so special thanks to Byron Jamal, the love guru, Leo Bryant, the archangel, and Dr. Kimball. Yours carries his own, Dr. Kimball. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. We will see you on Monday. We enter panel number 2. Panel number 2 talks about justice and equity. So it has Chris. Oh, I hate with names. Simone, who is normally here on Fridays, she's on that panel. Chris. I can't remember Chris's last name. He's going to kill me. Chris from the ACLU was on that panel, and Sterling is on that panel who does equity and things of that magnitude. That will air on next Thursday on Image of a Man Network, which is on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, as well as Apple TV. And I also put it on the audio, which is Spotify, iHeart, all 20 of them. So trust me, you have no excuse to not get these good 5 panels that I'm giving you every week. And for more information, go to ricecommunity.com. That's Rice with a W, WRICE, community.com. That is the website that shows everything. And we will see you on Monday or Friday, same time, same place on the Leadership Blend Live podcast with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.